Bahrain's royal court said the Kingdom of Bahrain's Prime Minister Khalifa bin Salman Al Khalifa died Wednesday in a hospital in the US. The court added in a statement, his body will be flown home for burial in a funeral that will be limited to a number of relatives. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa has declared a week of mourning, lowering the national flag and suspending government institutions for 3 days, starting from Thursday in mourning over the Prime Minister's death. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa Al-Kadhimi discussed the work of the fourth session of the Saudi-Iraqi Coordination Council on Wednesday. During a virtual meeting, the leaders reviewed agreements developed during the previous 3 sessions with the aim of strengthening relations between the two countries. The Crown Prince told the Prime Minister he is very happy to develop work with him and Iraq. The third round of Lebanese and Israeli negotiations over the maritime border demarcation began Wednesday morning at the headquarters of the UN Interim Force in Lebanon's Naqoura. The talks began just north of the UN demarcated blue line separating Israel and Lebanon, which are still formally at war. Lebanon's mixed civilian military delegation, headed by Navy Colonel Mazen Basbous, has been directed by the Lebanese Army commander to push for an additional 1,430 square kilometers to be included in Lebanese territory. This is on top of the already disputed 860 square kilometer area that both sides say is in their respective exclusive economic zone and brings what is now an Israeli gas field into disputed territory. At least 30 armed Ethiopian troops and large numbers of refugees fleeing the fighting in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region have crossed the border into Sudan, according to media reports, while one diplomat said hundreds of people have been reported killed on both sides of Ethiopia's week-long conflict. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed again vowed that his military will bring a speedy end to the fighting in the heavily armed Tigray region and the removal of its leadership, which his government regards as illegal. With the region almost completely cut off, it remained difficult to confirm either side's claims. Each blames the other for sparking the conflict. US President-elect Joe Biden said today that he vows to get right to work, dismissing President Donald Trump's refusal to accept the election outcome as inconsequential. President Trump has blocked the incoming president from receiving intelligence briefings and withheld federal funding intended to help facilitate the transition. Earlier, President-elect Biden said nothing would stop the transfer of power in the US government, while President Trump pursued lawsuits in several states in a bid to hold on to power. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party secured control on Wednesday of the US House of Representatives, with the Democrats winning at least 218 seats. Election officials in dozens of states representing both political parties said that there was no evidence that fraud or other irregularities played a role in the outcome of the presidential race, amounting to a forceful rebuke of President Donald Trump's portrait of a fraudulent election. Over the last several days, the president, members of his administration, congressional Republicans, and right-wing allies have put forth the false claim that the election was stolen from President Trump and have refused to accept results that showed Joe Biden as the winner. But top election officials across the country said in interviews and statements that the process had been a remarkable success despite record turnout and the complications of a dangerous pandemic. Hong Kong disqualified 4 opposition members of its legislature on Wednesday for endangering security, raising the prospect of a walkout by pro-democracy legislators who oppose what they see as Beijing's ever tighter grip on the city. The expulsions came shortly after China's parliament adopted a resolution allowing the city's executive to expel legislators deemed to be supporting Hong Kong independence, colluding with foreign forces or threatening national security without having to go through the courts. On Monday, the then 19 Democratic members of the 70-seat city legislature threatened to resign en masse if any of them was disqualified. South Korea has recorded 101 deaths, most of whom were elderly, after they received seasonal flu vaccines in the country's free vaccination program. The deaths have stoked public anxiety over the safety of such vaccines, but the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency said 97 of those deaths have very limited relation with the flu shots, while the other 4 cases are still under investigation. It added that of the total deaths, 84 people were aged over 70, followed by 8 under 60 and 9 in their 60s. According to a Yonhap news agency report, health authorities have repeatedly said they have found no direct link between the flu shots and the deaths. Work to distribute the experimental COVID-19 vaccine developed by Pfizer Incorporated and BioNTech is gearing up after the companies announced successful interim data, but it will not be coming to local pharmacies for the general public anytime soon. The data, which sent US stocks to record highs, showed the 2 companies' experimental vaccine is 90% effective at preventing COVID-19. They are still awaiting data on safety, which could come later this month. According to the tally compiled by Johns Hopkins University, the United States on Wednesday far exceeded its previous daily record of new COVID-19 cases, adding 201,961 cases in 24 hours. The high number, partly due to data delayed over the weekend, took total cases in the US to 10,238,243, with a total of 239,588 deaths. In the 24-hour period, 1,535 deaths from COVID-19 were registered, a record in recent months as the US struggles to contain the spread of the pandemic. For a week now, the number of new infections has trended at over 100,000 each day. India said on Wednesday that 512 people have died due to COVID-19 as 44,281 positive cases were reported from across the country in the last 24 hours. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare said that fatalities due to the coronavirus mounted to 127,571, while the total number of registered infections surged to 8,636,011. The Health Ministry said that 8,013,783 people recovered from the pandemic as it spread to 35 Indian states. Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh are the worst hit Indian states. Philippine authorities have ordered thousands of residents in eastern coastal communities to evacuate ahead of the landfall of Typhoon Vamco on Wednesday, only weeks after the country was battered by the strongest cyclone so far this year. Vamco, which carries sustained winds of 125 km per hour and gusts of up to 155 km per hour, is the 21st tropical storm to hit the Philippines this year. Bamco is due to make landfall in Polillo Island on Wednesday evening and hit rice-producing provinces north of the capital before exiting the Philippines' main island of Luzon on Thursday.